Here we go.
In the shadows of the old library halls, where the dust is thick and the silence calls, books tell stories of the things unseen, of foxes wild and spirits keen. Whispers in the stacks they creep, ghostly chills that steal your sleep. Paranormal truths no one believes, they linger here like autumn's leaves. Bibles open to verses dark, stories written to leave their mark. The wildlife outside hears the moans, silent foxes, the forest groans. The last of beast you cannot tame, a history buff who knows no shame. Paraman life outside hears the moans, silent foxes, the forest groans. The past a beast you cannot tame, a history buff who knows no shame. Paranormal tales in every spine, haunting truths that cross the line. Whispers in the stacks they creep, ghostly chills that steal your sleep. Paranormal truths no one believes, they linger here like autumn's leaves. Spirits waltz through moonlit air, books fall down as if to dare. Foxes howl in the wooded shade, they guard the truths that time forbade.
Yeah, there you have it. Thank you, Sweet Tea, for that. I love that song. It's a great addition to my original intro song, I think. A lot softer and a lot more laid back, but still cool. So thank you guys for joining. It's been a couple of weeks. Welcome to the library. Lenny is here. So is Victor hanging out back there. And we are back in full force. We have 5 stories from the great state of Washington, the home of the godfather of chocolate, Osada Treats. But before I get into them, and I do have a couple of pictures, actually, a couple of videos and a picture to show you. So hang around for that. It should be interesting. At least I think it will be. Anyway, so let me say hello to everybody first before I delve right in. Hello there, Delilah. Hello, Suzanne. Adam is in the house. Jimena is here. Great to see you. Zelda, Mustang Mike, Delilah, Tommy Stiggs. Who else we've got here? Big Bones, Osada is checking in, surviving. Hello, Mac. How are you? Tammy Thompson was the first one in the chat. I saw that earlier. She's jonesing for tonight's show. It's been a couple of weeks. So hopefully I will give you a Feed That Jones tonight. So here we have, who else? We got Gerard Cicelli. Great to see you. Anybody else that I miss? I hope I did not. Arlene, how are you? Anybody else? I'm going through this whole thing here. All these comments of everyone greeting themselves, greeting each other because they're such sweet tea, of course, is here. Good to see you. And did I hit everybody? I hope I did. If not, call me out because that would be rude if I did not say hello to everybody. So thank you all for stopping in, and let's get into it. Todd Father. Yes. Hello, Todd Father. How are you? All right. Bobo. Good to see you, my friend. All right. Let's light the candles. You know, it's kind of strange because it's getting light a lot later. It's staying light a lot later. So it's not really dark. So I had to pull my blackout curtains to try to get it darker in here tonight. So we'll do with what we can, I guess. What is happening here? What is this? That's strange. Look at that. That's a ghostly wick. What is going on there? Strange. All right. Let's see if that stays lit. If not, I have a backup candle. Anyway, so like I said, tonight we are going to talk about Washington State, Lenny. As far west, basically, as you can go and stay in the continental United States. And like any other state, they have a wealth of ghostly tales to talk about. And I've picked out 5 of them, which I thought were quite interesting. And then we'll see if you think they are as well. Let me see what's going on here. Better? There we go. All right. All right. So let's start out with Black Diamond Cemetery. Now, Black Diamond Cemetery is a 3.5 acre cemetery. Not that big, really, when you think about it. About 1,200 graves, I believe, in total. And this goes back to the 1800s, of course. Most do. But this one in particular. Hello, Emmanuel. Let me stop for a second and say hello to you because I didn't see you before. Great to see you, my friend. All right. And the main people that are buried here are the remains of miners that toiled in the mines in Washington, and many of them were from various different diverse countries: Italy, Russia, Australia, Ireland, all came here drawn to the mine industry at that particular time. And it was coal mining. And it really boomed in about 1884. And that's where all of this really started. And Unfortunately, over time, as these mines were developed and coal is being pulled out of them, there's accidents that happen and cave-ins and explosions. And as a result, we had a lot of dead miners that had to be buried. So the mining company bought this land and built this particular cemetery specifically for the dead of their mining efforts. Hello, Shannon. Good to see you. Now, what happens in this cemetery? Well, first of all, let me show you what the cemetery looks like so you can get a good idea before I tell you what happens. I have a lot of pictures tonight, so bear with me as I go through these. I want to make sure I get the right ones here. There we go. This is what Black Diamond Cemetery looks like. It's not particularly a creepy cemetery, but it's an old cemetery. You can tell by the tombstones. It's quite old. And because of that, it has a lot of activity people claim to have seen here. Some of the things that happen are floating lights at night. There are no lights, no electric lights in the cemetery. However, many people have noticed and claimed to see lights in the cemetery at various times, particularly on foggy nights. They will see glowing orbs that light up the cemetery. So, an interesting experience at a minimum, and a creepy one at at the other end of the spectrum. There were, and just to add to this, there were three major explosions in the local mines that filled this cemetery. One was in 1902, one was in 1910, and the final was in 1915. And then there were also some miners that succumbed to influenza, the influenza epidemic of 1917 and 18, which took my great grandmother perished in that flu epidemic. And and so as a result, you have a cemetery of people that have not died of traditionally natural causes. They're untimely deaths. So even though the grounds might be considered holy, I don't know if they are, because it's a non-denominational cemetery. So I don't know if it's been blessed by any type of religious order, but there's a lot of activity that goes on here. In addition to the lights, there is whistling that's heard. As you walk through the cemetery, you'll hear whistling in the distance, and you'll see it you'll hear it coming from certain directions. You'll look to those directions, and there'll be absolutely nothing there. There's also an account of a white horse, a ghostly white horse that darts through the cemetery at certain times, always at night, but darts through the cemetery, skillfully avoiding the tombstones, making its way through the cemetery. And at times it will stop and whinny and look about as if it's looking for its owner. So it's an interesting spiritual horse or steed that makes its home around here occasionally. Not something that's seen all the time, but from time to time it will. There's also full-scale apparitions of the miners that are seen, and they're usually seen carrying their lanterns as if they are still trying to navigate their way through the dark passages of the mines. That was their lives. So a bit of a residual type of haunting in that manner is that they don't appear to be cognizant of where they are, only that they are reliving their past. They're reliving their lives, or what they did most of their lives. So plenty of spirits of miners here, and a galloping ghostly horse that seems to navigate the cemetery in a certain pattern over and over again. So an interesting little spot in Washington, the Black Diamond Cemetery. All right. Let's remove that. Let me say hello to who else came in. Bill C came in. Hello, Bill C. Marta Fowler. Good to see you. Great to see you guys. So a bunch of folks coming in tonight. That's awesome. Everyone's stopping in and saying hi. All right, so that's your first one, Black Diamond Cemetery. Let's move on. Now, the next one, oh, thank you, Osada. No, thank you very much for that. It's not necessary, but I really appreciate that. The next spot is Fort Vancouver, Washington. Now, the history behind this is quite interesting because originally this was a trading post by French Canadians. And over the years, it has quite a history of when the United States came to be, or the United States began to expand. The Fort Vancouver in Washington was seen as an obstacle to the United States. It was a foreign power, so to speak, a foreign seed. So the United States built a fort right directly across of it. So you had two forts right next to each other. One that was built by the French Canadians, and really the British. It wasn't really the French Canadians; it was the British, and because they controlled obviously all of Canada, and it was built on a 366-acre reserve, and that's what it still is today. That's ultimately what it turned out to be, and it's a historical site. You can go and visit it. It's quite a beautiful place, I believe, from the pictures I've seen. Let me show you a quick picture of it so you can see what I'm talking about. If you like historical sites, I'm sure you would love this one. Let's see here. There are plenty of pictures, but I wasn't going to pull up a ton of them. I just wanted to pull up, one for you to get a good idea. As you can see, it is a wooden fort, a wooden preserved historical fort, as if it was built in the 1840s when it originally was built. So a great historical site. I love historical sites. If I ever get a chance to go there, I will definitely check it out. Hello, Yankees for life. Good to see you. Congratulations on your granddaughter. We're all very happy for you. God bless you on that. All right, so Fort Vancouver. Now, originally, like I said, this was a trading post. This was a fur trading post. So, as a result, the spirits of those original French Canadian fur traders and trappers tend to appear here quite often, and they are the ghosts that are seen most often. They're people that are seen dressed like mountain men, carrying furs. They will appear and then disappear without any type of sign or anything other than poof, gone in midair. Hello, Krumel. Good to see you, my friend. Noel, good to see you. Angelique, how are you, my friend? Good to see you. And outside of Vancouver, there are houses that were built over the years for various reasons. For the soldiers that were stationed there, the officers of the soldiers would build houses and would live in those houses. It is said that President Grant stayed here at one point. So there's Admiral Nelson stayed here. So famous people have stayed here over the years. And there's a bunch of houses, and they're all put on what they call Officers Row, which is a bunch of old houses that were built for the purpose of people staying there. And over the years, they have been preserved as historical sites also. So in 1846, it's built. The fort is built. In 1849, the barracks are built. And then in 1862, the Hudson Bay Company, which was the British company that originally built the fort, gives up and goes away and says, okay, this is the United States territory. We give up. We can't do this anymore. And the United States just moves in and takes over the existing fort, which was right across from the buildings that they had built. So that it's not until 1862, in the middle of the Civil War, when it becomes part of, fully stationed by the United States, fully controlled by the United States. Now, aside from these traders, these ghostly traders that we see, what else goes on here? Because there's a bunch of stuff that goes on, specifically in Officers Row, which are these buildings, like I said, these houses. Now, the first one is the Grant House. Now, the Grant House is called the Grant House because General Grant or President Grant had stayed there. And let me see if I can get a picture of the Grant House for you. Let's see. Where is the Grant House? Here it is. Here is what the Grant House looks like. And obviously a very old house, right? 200 years old. No, not 200 years old. More like 150 years old around that time period. Built in the 1850s. 175 years, excuse me. So it's getting up there. Now, the Grant House has been turned into a restaurant. It's not a residence any longer, but it's a restaurant that you can go and sit down in antique, traditional settings. It seems like a great place to go and have a meal. It has a little plaque in front of it that describes the historical significance of it, etc. And there is a spirit. There's one particular spirit that seems to be haunting the Grant House, and he's named Sully. Now, I couldn't find out why Sully was his name, other than possibly his name was Sullivan in his lifetime. Maybe that's why. I don't know. But it is said that he was a prior owner of the house, and that he likes, since it's turned into a restaurant, he seems to like to supervise the staff, make sure the staff is doing their jobs. And how does he do that, you might say? Well, he will move certain items to make sure they're in front of the staff when they need to get them. He will clean up a bit here and there when things aren't left up to his liking. He'll step in and do a little cleaning himself, much like a good proprietor would, not happy with the results of his work or workers or his employees. But other than that, he's a very harmless ghost. He doesn't look to scare people. He is more concerned with making sure the restaurant works in an orderly fashion. So kudos to you, Scully. You're welcome, I guess, to help out as long as you want to there. So that's the Grant House right there. Now, the other area that is the other house that is said is called the Admiral Paul Nelson Mansion. Now, I couldn't find a picture of it. Now, this is a private resident now. So you can't get in there. The public can't get in there. You wouldn't be able to see it. It's owned by private individuals. However, over the years, there's been a lot of activity that has been described to have happened in this house. In fact, it is said that to this day, every Tuesday, every Saturday through Tuesday, in the middle of the night, certain walls in the house will start to bleed. That blood will start to come out of certain walls in the house. Now, no one can say what happened to cause this because there's no recorded death in this house or tragic or horrible killing or anything like that. But it seems to be happening, that this blood drips from the house and in the morning it's gone. So you have to see it when it's happening because it won't be there in the morning. It's not something that will stick around. But it is said that they do that. It does happen. Now, in both this house as well as the Grant House, there are cold spots that are picked up by many people, felt by many people. The phones in the Grant House will seem to come off the hook and close, go on and off by themselves. The phones who have hard ringers will do that. The doors will open and shut, and footsteps will be heard quite often. So it's Sully moving around, doing his job, I guess, and making quite a noise or a stir that you can see on a regular basis. So that's what you have going on in Fort Vancouver. You have the Grant House, you have the Admiral Paul Nelson House, and then you have the fort itself. And it seems that the spirits of the fur traders will meander around. They're primarily seen in the fort itself, but will be seen walking about in the town at times through these houses in and out. So quite an active area for an old dirt fort that was built, basically a fur trading spot, and stop along the Oregon Trail. So quite an interesting thing. It's still happening today. The ghostly spirits are not at rest. They're still doing their thing. So Fort Vancouver in Washington might be someplace you'd like to start to look for ghosts if you're out there, because you probably like to get success pretty quickly there. And I know that there have been multiple excursions of ghost hunters that have gone into there to see what they could document. But you know how I feel about ghost hunters for the most part. I don't share their stuff because I don't trust them. But it's worth looking into if you find that interesting. So, all right. So that was Fort Vancouver. Now let's go on to the third story. Now this third story is the Oxford Inn, and this is located in Snow. Oh, I cannot pronounce this. Snohomish, Washington. I don't know. It's a difficult name for me to pronounce. Hello, Gina. Good to see you, my friend. Thank you for coming in. All right, so let me show you what the Oxford Theater Oxford Saloon. I'm sorry, Oxford Saloon looks like. We're going to get to a theater next. That's why I'm jumping the gun a little bit. So let's talk about the Oxford Saloon. All right, where are you, Oxford Saloon? Here we go. Here is the Oxford Saloon. It's kind of a small picture. Let me see if I can make it any bigger. No, I can't really figure out how to make it bigger. Forget it. Anyway, so that's what it looks like. It looks like kind of like an old-fashioned Western saloon, right? And it's active to this day. It's still an active saloon. People go in there, have a drink, hang out, eat some food, et cetera, et cetera. So an active place. Now, in the history behind this particular place is at one point it was a grocery store. And then that was originally in 1900. And then after a while, it turned into a dive bar where a lot of people ended up getting murdered. In fact, 10 documented killings have occurred in this building over the years. And upstairs was a boarding house for part of the time and a bordello for the rest of the time. So quite a house of ill repute over the years. And because of that, there's quite a bit of activity that is seen here from a supernatural perspective. Now, let's talk about the spirits we will see in this place. The first spirit you will see is someone by the name of Henry. Now, Henry, I wish I had a picture of Henry because I couldn't find a picture of him because he's a real person. He was a real person, but I could not find a picture of him. But in life, but he was a policeman, and he was a retired policeman that became a security guard in the place. And one night, while he was trying to break up a fight between two patrons who were drunk or disruptive, he ends up getting stabbed and murdered, and dies right there on the floor in the saloon floor, in the middle of the saloon floor. Now, his ghost is said to hang out near the ladies' room and sometimes in the ladies' room. And the story behind that is that he was a bit of a perv, as they say in life, where he would lure at the ladies coming in and out, maybe say a few things that are racy or inappropriate to them, and got his kicks that way. And it seems that he's following this suit in the afterlife because women will say that they feel their butts getting grabbed when they go into the ladies' room, out of nowhere. They feel like someone pinched them. So Henry, the old guard, is being a bit pervy in the afterlife, unfortunately. But he's also seen in the ladies' room. He's also seen from time to time in the bar itself, in the saloon bar itself, around the area where he was murdered. And you'll see him sitting on a bar stool, maybe, or possibly just standing, observing people trying to do his job from years ago. But he's still there. Henry, the old security guard, is still there. Now, there's two other ghosts. I'm sorry, three other ghosts that we're going to talk about. Wow, 30 people in the chat. Thank you, guys. That's awesome. Can't remember the last time I had so many people in the chat. So the next ghost we're going to talk about is Catherine. Now, Catherine's ghost is said to have been, the madam that ran the bordello on the second floor. And you will see her, particularly on the second floor, because that's where most of her activity, I guess, took place. And she will be wearing a purple dress with a bow. So very late 1800s, early 1900s look to her, kind of like a Victorian lady type of look. Purple dress, bow. And you'll see her walking about doing her thing. Now, there's also a ghost of a girl by the name of Amelia. Now, it's not for sure, but they think she may have been a prostitute. She may have been a lady of the evening that worked for Catherine. And it is said that she was found dead in a bathtub on the second floor, murdered by some customer, one of her customers, I guess, a John, as they would say. And it was such a gruesome incident that her head was almost severed completely off by the killing. So when you see her, it's not a pleasant sight. Although you'll see her, she's quite beautiful and young. You will see the gash in her neck that almost goes through the whole thing. So you'll see her on the second floor, sometimes in a closet in the area. A lot of people that stay in certain rooms see her in the closet. That's got to be startling. But also downstairs in the bar, you might see her from time to time. Late at night, she will appear and then vanish. When you encounter her, though, you may encounter, people say that they feel like her hands are reaching out to touch you, as if to, I don't know. I mean, I'm making an assumption here. Maybe she's trying to gain help. I don't know, but her hands seem to be outreaching, and people will feel her icy touch. So, and I don't think it's harmful. It doesn't seem to be. People don't seem to think that it's harmful. It's more that she's looking for something. She's looking for comfort, maybe, or assistance of some type. So, her ghostly hands will come towards you. And then the last individual that you will see is the spirit of Nels Peterson. And Nels Peterson was an owner of this particular saloon from 1923 to 1938. You will see him wearing a bowler cap, the bowler cap like Lenny was wearing on St. Patrick's Day, that bowler, that bowl-shaped cap. You'll see him wearing that. And you'll smell a strong odor of cigar, because he was famous for always having a cigar in his mouth and puffing away. So, and you will look around and there'll be no smoking, but you will smell Nels's cigar. And he said that he'll appear in photos, actually. Now, I couldn't find any online, but people will say if you take a photo of in the place, you might get Nels in the photo with whomever you're taking a picture of. Now, I did find a picture of Catherine, though, which I'm going to show you. Excuse me. This photo was taken in the 80s, and it is said to be Catherine in the photo. So I'm going to show you this photo. You tell me what you think. This was a photo someone was taking of the saloon, just the general saloon area. All right, here we go. Here we go. Let me put it on full screen. Now, here is Catherine right here. As you can see, You could see the outline. Here's her head. Here's her shoulders. Down here, you'll see the dress going down here. So it is said that they believe that was Catherine, the madam that has shown up wandering through the saloon room late at night. Now, someone was taking a picture at the time, and this is what they show. Now, I don't know. I don't know about this. It could be a person for all I know. All I know, it definitely looks like a person. Now, whether it's a spirit or not, I don't know. But there's definitely something there, someone there. And they claim to believe that, and many believe that is her spirit caught on film. So who knows? So there's Catherine, the old madam of the place, upstairs wandering about. All right. Now, and Nels Peterson. I tried to find a photo of him. I couldn't find a photo of him, but he is the person that you'll see most often if you're there. You know, you might see him more often than Catherine or Amelia. Amelia is the most scary, obviously, because of her wound. But Nels is just an old guy hanging out with a cigar. So who knows? But those are the feeds. Those are the things that go on in the Oxford Saloon. Remember, 10 people lost their lives here. So it's bound to be a place that is not really positive with energy. Not a good place thing where things have happened. I'm sure there's plenty of happiness that has happened since, but because of that, it's a good spot to find spirits that are not quite at rest. So the Oxford Saloon in Snohomish, Washington. All right. Now, let's go on to our fourth story, our fourth place. Hello, Kelly. Good to see you. Didn't catch you coming in, but good to see you. The ghost of Mount Baker Theater. Now, let's talk about Mount Baker Theater. Mount Baker Theater was originally built in the 1800s. And then I believe it burned down. It was rebuilt. And it's in Bellingham, Washington. Now, let me give you a picture. Let me show you what it looks like. The Mount Baker Theater. So let's do this. Mount Baker. Here we go. All right. Here's what Mount Baker Theater looks like. And this is a postcard. This is an old postcard, but you get the picture of it. It's kind of peculiar. It has this Moorish tower here as part of the architecture, but it also has storefronts around it. So you have to go inside to get to the theater. You have to go, it's kind of like a mall, I guess, with an entrance, and around it has been turned into stores. But this remains the original architecture from 1906 or 1907 when it was rebuilt. And I have some pictures of the inside as well. Hello, CG2. Good to see you. All right, let's stop sharing that. Let me see if I can pull out a picture of, hold on, a picture of the inside. Let's see here. It looks like a beautiful theater, actually, if you ask me. Here is a shot from the balcony of the theater, very classical looking. The huge chandelier up here, the beautiful wooden molding around the whole stage with the curtains. So just a classic looking theater. I also have a shot of it from hold on. I have a shot of it, I believe, from that, if I still have it. A shot of it the other way. Let me see. Let's see here. Maybe I closed it by accident because I don't see it here. No, I don't see it here, unfortunately. But anyway, you get the gist. You get the gist of it. It's a beautiful theater. Now, what goes on in this theater is really the question, right? Well, it originally was a vaudeville theater. And over time, vaudeville went out. And when vaudeville went out, it became a regular theater for plays and orchestras, et cetera, et cetera. After World War II, operas and orchestras began to do regular performances in it, live performances in it. And over time, they've noticed a couple of ghostly activities that have occurred in here. The first is a ghost by the name of Judy. Now, the backstory of Judy is that Judy lived on the land before the theater was built. It basically was a homestead, I guess, of hers. And she was quite a flirt. They said that she would have gentlemen callers that she would flirt with routinely, and that she was quite the heartthrob of the town when in her heyday. Now, the city used eminent domain to take her home and raise it and build the theater as well as other things, and she wasn't too happy about that. And in fact, it is said that she took her own life, and as a result, she's still there. She's still there hanging around, and you'll often see her on the balcony, up in the balcony regions, and she particularly likes men. She will, if you're a man and you're in there, she might come up to you. She might try to flirt with you. If you can be flirtatious with a ghost, she would be the one to be flirtatious with, because she will come up to you and show herself and maybe rub up against you or whisper in your ear. Sweet nothings, I guess. So Judy's a very active ghost. And if you're a man, watch out, because she might be coming after you to try to land you. You never can tell. There's also a ghost by the name of Jeffrey. Now, why he's called Jeffrey, I really don't know. But he will be dressed in a pinstriped tuxedo, and he will appear sitting in the theater rows, sitting next to people. He'll just appear. And often people will think he's an actual person. They won't know, other than that his dress is kind of old and unique. They will think he's a person, and then he will vanish. So that could be quite a startling experience. And this is an interesting fact I learned about the theater itself. The theater company that works there maintains a ghost light on stage at all times. And I was curious as to what a ghost light is. And a ghost light is a tradition that certain theater groups have of leaving a light going 24 hours a day on the stage. And the basic concept is that it's a homage to the spirits of prior performers, that this light it will be used by the spirits as they they continue to form whatever theater presentation they were doing over and over again during the night when no one's there. So there's been enough activity that the theater group decided to adopt this practice of having a ghost light on stage at all times. So if you're ever in this theater and you see this light burning conspicuously, even when nothing's going on, you'll know what it is. It's the ghost light of the theater. So quite an active area, the ghosts of Mount Baker Theater in Bellingham, Washington. All right, so that was your fourth story. Now let's go on to our fifth and final story. Now, this final story is quite disturbing to me, because it's it's without a doubt it's documented. The spirit part, or the ghostly part is up to you, or up to various witnesses to say they have or haven't. But this is the story of a place called Starvation Heights. And it is a gruesome tale on how 18 people lost their lives while staying at Starvation Heights. Now, the background to Starvation Heights is that it was a sanitarium created by a woman by the name of Dr. Linda Hazard. Now, let me show you what Dr. Linda Hazard looks like. Like I said, she is a real or was a real person. So let me show you what she looks like. There she is. There is Linda Hazard in her mugshot, so to speak, when she was arrested. And at the time, 1902, she was quite the star. She was quite the phenomenon. She was a woman that was born in, let me see, where was she born? Oh, she was born in Washington, and then she went to Minnesota to become a doctor. And at the time, women doctors were not a big thing. So she was quite the sensation that this woman wanted to become a doctor and the school was willing to take her on, not as a nurse, but as an actual physician. Excuse me. And her real name was Linda Buford, or I think, or Buffield. Linda Buffield. And she takes on the name of Linda Hazard because she gets married to an individual by the name of Sam Hazard. All right, so let me get me back on here real quick. Now, Linda Hazard was a doctor, if you believe she was a doctor, let's put it that way, because she did go to medical school, but she never passed her boards. So she was never a licensed doctor. But that didn't stop her from practicing medicine her own way. She had her own theories on medicine and how to cure things. And her big theory was that starvation could cure anything. All you had to do was take a patient, keep them in a secure location, and starve them, and the body would purify itself and kill off any disease that the individual particular had. So, quite a dangerous activity, but people bought into this, and people came and sought her out to stay at her sanitarium. In addition to the starvation, another part of her theory was that beatings would help. So she would beat her patients as well, that beatings would beat out the disease, would help the body overcome the disease, whatever it might be. The first person, let's see, now this went on. Like I said, this went on. She had people coming to her, like usually Victorian women who were wealthy, that were looking for an answer to whatever problems they might have. And no, surviving. No, it wasn't that. She's this one was not that. She was quite a sadistic nut, this woman. She but not in that way, not in the sexual way. And she so like I said, 18 people ended up losing their lives here, being starved to death. Actually, they died of starvation. And in fact, what she did was she built this sanitarium in Olalla, Washington. And another thing that one of her wonderful treatments was daily enemas twice a day. So quite a horror story, I would say, for those involved. And her patients would be given only one orange and one glass of tomato juice every few days. That was part of her prescription, I guess. Now, this went on for a while, and from time to time, people would escape. Women would escape. Like I said, these were always women. They were rich women, too. And they would escape and look for help. They would come to the locals and beg for food. Out of nowhere, you'd see these starved skeletons appearing and begging for food. And this went on for quite a while. Until there was the case of Claire and Dorothea Williamson, who Dorothea was there, and I guess she was there to lose weight. She had a weight problem, so I guess starvation made a lot of sense at the time. But she quickly learned that things were not up to par here, that things were getting a little extreme. And so she wrote her nurse that she had as a child, her nurse who was in New Zealand at the time. So she wrote her, and the nurse is so alarmed by what she's described in the letter that she gets on a boat and she comes to America in an effort to save her. And she does just that. She gets there and brings the authorities there. And what happens is she is arrested and actually convicted. So Linda Hazard is arrested and convicted, and put in prison for 2 years. Now, for some reason, she's savvy enough to get out of this. She somehow she does this. She cons her way out of prison, and didn't serve the full amount. She got out in under 2 years. She was sentenced to 5 years, I believe, but she got out in under 2 years. And then she her and her husband, her husband was also convicted for an accomplice to all of this, for all of these deaths. And she escapes. I mean, well, she was freed. She goes back to Minnesota, gets into trouble there, trying to start this up again, to the point where they drive her out of the city. They drive her out, like physically, like ban her from the city. They don't even bother arresting her. They, like kind of like a mob drives her out of the city. We want you gone. And then she returns to Washington. And at this point, she gets so warped and that she begins to apply her own theories to herself. And in the end, she herself dies of starvation. So just a complete nut job, obviously, that ended up with her, a little poetic justice. She ended up succumbing to what she did to so many others. Now I'll show you what her let's see, where is this? I'll show you what the Sanitarium house looked like. And I believe it's no longer there. I believe it's been razed, but here's what it looked like. It was, in the middle of nowhere. Like I said, it was on, I believe, or maybe I didn't say this, it was on 40 some odd acres. Yeah, 40 acres. So it was well away from anyone. It was very secluded. And that's what allowed her to get away with this for so long. And this is interesting. I found a picture of her just before she dies. Now, this picture says 1,000 words. If I can get it here. Hold on. Let me see. There it is. This is what she looked like herself prior to her death. And as you can see, starved to the point of being a skeleton herself. So quite a disturbing creature, I would say. So what's the ghostly activity? Well, it's not too hard to figure out, right? It's not too hard to figure out. It is the ghosts of those who died in at the hands of Linda that haunt the region, haunt the general 40 acres here. And it's quite a disturbing thing to see, because the spirits take the form of their starving, their last moments. So they're gaunt. They look like zombies, and they will often moan and wail in pain and in looking for assistance and help, and unfortunately never get it. So they mindlessly wander the grounds of these 40 acres, which has since been, basically locked off. Like no one goes there, no one's using it, and that's where they are. That's where these spirits are. And from time to time, people will go in there. Ghost hunters will go in there. Kids might go in there looking for something, and will get quite a scare when they see what actually is there. Excuse me. So that's our fiend for the evening. Linda Hazard, Dr. Linda Hazard. Sounds like a Vincent Price movie, but it's real. And Her efforts took the lives of 18 innocent people that were just looking for cures for whatever ailed them. And that's what happened to them. So there you have it. Those are your 5 ghost stories for Washington State. Black Diamond Cemetery, Fort Vancouver, Washington, Oxford Saloon, Mount Baker Theater, and Starvation Heights. There you have it. 5 ghostly tales of what's happening in Washington State. Now, Osada was going to try to go to Black Diamond Cemetery, but unfortunately he couldn't do it. That would have been cool if we could have had him live there. But who knows? Maybe another time we'll do it. If he can do it, if he can do it on another week and another episode, I'll certainly put him on, and we could take a firsthand look of Black Diamond Cemetery while he's there. So that should be cool if we can ever, swing that. If we can ever swing that. All right. Now let's see what I got here. Do I have some? Yeah, I have a couple of videos I like to say. Oh, before I get to the videos, I just want to throw something at you and see what you think. I was thinking about doing some original fiction stories that I would write and I would tell them on here, and I'm wondering if you would find that interesting. Let me know if you think you would. Up to now, I've basically told existing tales that are out there that I've researched. But what I was thinking about doing is telling more fictional stories that I wrote about some of these things, using the tale or the legend as the basis and writing a story around it. And if I did that, I would tell them online. I probably wouldn't do them live. I would probably do them as pre-records to see if you guys like them, and see where they go anywhere, see if they go anywhere. But that was just something I'd like to do. I think I'd enjoy doing that, putting pen to paper and coming up with some fictional stories based on these tales. So think about that and let me know what you think. Some people said it's cool. Some people think it'll be a good idea. That's awesome. All right. So we'll see what we can do about that in the coming weeks or coming year, whatever, coming months, year, whatever. So let's talk about let's look at some paranormal stuff real quick. I know I'm over an hour. I'm just about at an hour. But let me see what we got here. Now, I have 3 things to show you. Now, the first one is a photo. Now, let me see what I got here. All right. Let's see. All right, here it is. Okay. Now, take a look at this photo and tell me what you think. Now, this is a photo taken in a hospital. And it is said to be a photo of a Victorian era nurse that is still doing her rounds in this hospital. To the left of the hallway, if you look down the hallway to the left, you'll see an outline of someone right here with a long white dress, white, and either a veil or a hat or something here. Looks like a bride. Yes. Right. Yep. Looks like a bride. They say it's a nurse. I don't know. But it's definitely transparent or translucent. So I don't know. I don't think it's definitely not a person, a live person in the photo. Communion dress, Noel says. A bride with a handbag, Suzanne says. Patrick says it could be an old-time nurse. That's what they say. I don't know. This was taken in Canada, in a hospital in Canada. I don't know the name of it, but it was taken in Canada, and that this was said to have been the spirit of a nurse, the spirit of a nurse who still haunts the hospital, and that several people have encountered her, and that one day they happened to find her in a photo that was taken of the hallway. So I don't know. I mean, I could see it. The old Victorian-looking nurse outfits. It could be that. It could be the communion. It could be all those things. But I think it's definitely spiritual. It's not something that is a person that could be mistaken for a person. So it's definitely transparent, translucent. You can see through it. So it's something. So I thought that was interesting. All right. Now let's go back to this. Now that was number 1. Now let's do some video. I got 2 videos for you. Now the first video is kind of, I thought it was funny, so it's kind of strange. So I'm gonna play it for you. You tell me what you think. This is it's said to be a ghost deer in the woods. So take a look. Let's see what you think here. A ghostly deer. All right, here we go. Now, this is hard for me to, let me see. Now you're going to see a ghost. I mean, you're going to see a deer. You should see a deer right in the middle here. There's a deer here in the middle. Now I'm gonna play it. Behind it, you should see the ghostly deer. Here's the deer. Here's the regular deer. Now behind it, you see that movement back there? Let me play it again. I wish I could make this thinner. I can't figure out how to make this thicker or like bigger, this picture. It's just so thin. But here's the regular deer. And behind here, you'll see the ghostly deer. Look at this right here. Walking through the trees. Let me see if I can do that in slow motion. Let's go backwards. Let's see it go forward. Here we go. Here we go. There it is. See it right there? The ghost deer in the back. Interesting. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I wish I could, like I said, I wish I could make it bigger. I can't figure out how to make it bigger. There's an outline of the actual deer right there. But I can't get the outline of the actual, the ghost. Let me see. Can I get the outline of the ghostly deer? No. No, I can't do that. All right. But anyway, there you go. It's definitely something there, right? It's definitely a deer. Now the question is it a double exposure of some type? I don't know. Hello, Gerard. Good to see you. So I don't know. What do you think? And what's the explanation for this? That I wouldn't even think that ghosts would be. There would be deer ghosts, quite frankly. So I don't know what the explanation is. I don't know. Like, what could this be? If it's not a ghost, what the heck could it be? I'm not really sure. All right. Anyway, so that's our ghostly deer. That's I just thought that was kind of funny and interesting. All right, let's get out of here. Let's stop that. And let's go to our last one. Now, our last video is, hold on. It's of a fire, a house that's on fire. This old house in the woods is on fire. Now, it is said that this house no one was in it at the time. And as you'll see it burn. It's definitely a house that's burning down. But while the fire is happening, you will see a figure in the midst of it moving. And you will ascertain by watching this that it couldn't be a human being. Like, it couldn't be a living human being, because a living human being could not survive in this fire. So let's play it and you tell me what you think. right down the end of that hallway, right down there. Do you see that right there? Do you see the bot? It looks like the image of a person. Now this is the house burning from the outside. It's completely burning. Now look down the hallway. Look at that. Look at that. Someone is moving in the background. Someone is definitely moving in the background. And as you could see, the house completely burned to the ground. Now, hello, Paulie. Good to see you. Cheech, how are you? All right. So let's do this in slow motion. Let's go back and do this in slow motion so you can see. All right. Now, okay. Here it is. The house is on fire. Now, the camera pans in down through the front door, down this hallway, and you could see down the end of the hallway, there is an image. Look at that. There's a dark figure right there. A dark figure that goes to the left. Maybe there's a better prior one. Here it is. Dark figure, and it goes to the left. Now, no one could survive in there. The house is completely engulfed with smoke at this point and will turn into a complete inferno. So it can't be anyone lingering and playing a practical joke or setting this up to pretend there's someone there, because they would probably be dead. If they did, probably become a ghost instantly if they really did something like this, if they were dumb enough to try to do something like this, because the house is really on fire. So to me, this kind of convinced me that this is some type of paranormal activity here, because no living being could be in there right here. And there's definitely someone there. There's definitely something moving down there. Shadow figure, something like that. Coat, yes, right. Right, Noel. Yeah, like exactly. Right. As if they're wearing an overcoat. Yes. That's what it looks like to me. You're right. So there you have it. There you have it. And there's the house burning to the ground. And it said that no one came out of there. No one was in it, and no one came out. So that's pretty convincing to me, that one. All right. So there you have it. Those are your 3 paranormal photos and videos for this evening. I hope you enjoyed them. And you make the decision, obviously, as to what they're. Hey, Slim, how are you, my friend? Haven't seen you in a while. Good to see you. Deb Roberts, good to see you. Thank you for stopping in and saying hi. Really appreciate it. And I hope I did not miss anyone as I was well engulfed into my stories. I hope I didn't miss anybody coming in that I didn't say hello to. If I did, please call me out and tell me I'm a jerk. But I don't think so. I think I hit everyone. Paulie Donuts, I hit. Yeah. Gerard, Cheech, Zelda, everybody. Yeah, I got all you guys. All right, cool. All right, so that is the show. I'm well over an hour, but I thought it was worth it. We had some good stories. Hopefully they were entertaining to you, and those videos I think were okay. Like I said, it's always a problem for me to find decent ones. It gets kind of hard because a lot of them are just complete phonies, and I wouldn't waste your time with the complete phonies. So yeah, there were some good numbers. Yeah, we hit 30, Mustang. Good numbers tonight. Very thankful for that, guys. But we'll be back next week, I think. I don't see any reason why we wouldn't be, right, Lenny? What do you think? We'll see. I'm going to think about what it's going to be about. I really don't know. But as always, I want to thank each and every one of you for stopping in, spending some time with me on this Friday evening. And I hope you enjoyed the content that I prepared for you. Lenny and I and Victor, always. So until next time, I will say stay scared, because it's always fun to be scared. And we will see you. God bless you all. And see you next week on The Guild. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone. Good night.